Desert Oracle Radio, the voice of the desert.
Night has fallen on the desert, and you know it's getting close to Halloween when the jack-o'-lanterns are already turning up, murdered in the dry wash. The dry wash where I sometimes start my evening walk. 3 in a row, smashed to bits. And these jack-o'-lanterns had not really been cleaned up inside, sort of an amateur job. So when they break apart, all the stringy pumpkin guts spray out all around. Very disturbing. If you clean out your pumpkin or turnip, if you're a traditionalist, not only do you get a better flame inside and a better shape to the face that you've cut out, sharpness around the eyes and the teeth, very important. But you have a lot of delicious pumpkin seeds ready for the oven. Clean off the strands of pumpkin innards. Add some sea salt. And roast them until they're golden brown and the house smells like a pumpkin pie. A pumpkin pie left in the oven for too long. Halloween is here again, and it looks like the Vatican is taking this opportunity to release a new demon into the world. An ill-advised publicity stunt to appeal to the youth. According to the Catholic News Service, this little yellow anime demon is the Catholic mascot for the year 20 and 25, a Jubilee year. And they named it Luce. Latin for light. Like Lucifer, the light bearer, the shining one. They're going to manufacture millions of these things, and certain unlucky children will get them for Christmas because the kids love anime, according to the Vatican. Imagine millions of these demon idols showing up all over the world at the same time. Identical anime demons. To be put upon a shelf and venerated. And here in the news release, there's a picture of the Archbishop with a little figurine of this demon, Luce, in its shining yellow robe and glowing eyes, and the weapon of Pluto himself, the bident, the two-pronged pitchfork. The trident belongs to Poseidon. Halloween is really the only remaining scrap of the wild abandon of the old festival calendar. The festival nights had used to be the favorite part of people's lives. The seasonal festivals celebrated by prince and priest and pauper, young and old. Dances and processions and drinking and eating and strange old customs. Strange old rituals that bind you to the land, to the place where you live. The voices from the forest becoming ever more evident in the shadows of your mind. All Hallows Eve is the night before All Souls Day, Dia de los Muertos in Mexico and the border towns. And that has a whole interesting history of its own, including its apparent preservation of the otherwise lost dance macabre traditions that followed the shock of the Black Death in medieval Europe. If you are a Catholic or an Orthodox Christian or otherwise follow the Catholic calendar, maybe because you're a vampire and you have to sort of work around various holy days, the 72-hour triple holy day of All Hallows Eve, All Souls Day, and All Saints Day is called Hallowtide, which is a fantastic name, completely underused. What shall we do for Hallowtide? Go to our village festival and the bonfires on the hilltops, or maybe go on horseback to our relations' town, a day's ride down the Ridgeway, and celebrate there. On All Souls, we'll solemnly walk from Mass to the cemetery and have a little picnic there with our ancestors, pour out a little for Grandma Jenny. She always loved rum. All Saints Day is just for the saints, I suppose. I don't know how strictly this stuff is enforced. But I do feel bad for the various saints who got thrown out of the official catalog or never made it at all.
Desert Oracle Radio.
I call McGregor Mathers from his grave. For in my first hard springtime we were friends, although of late estranged. I thought him half a lunatic, half knave, and told him so, but friendship never ends. And what if mind seems changed, and it seemed changed with the mind? What thoughts rise up on bid, on generous things that he did? And I grow half contented to be blind. He had much industry at setting out, much boisterous courage before loneliness had driven him crazed. For meditations upon unknown thought make human intercourse grow less and less. They are neither paid nor praised. But he'd object to the host. The glass became my glass, a ghost lover he was, and may have grown more arrogant being a ghost. That's from All Souls Night by William Butler Yeats. And this is Desert Oracle Radio with soundscapes by Red, Blue, Black, Silver. Now picture yourself on the highway, behind the wheel, the middle of nowhere, as we used to say, looking for a signal on this Hallowtide night. And from years past, these strange voices rise up through the radio speakers. Welcome to Desert Oracle Radio. You're on the air.
Hey, Ken. How are you?
I'm hanging in there.
So I wanted to call in about a mystery occurrence, I guess you could call it, that's happening in Old Town Yucca at the moment.
It's happening right now. Please,
it's currently happening, right in front of my place in Old Town Yucca, right on Santa Fe Trail.
What's going on? Give us a rundown.
So this is a reoccurring disturbance, I guess you could say. It's been happening for the past 5 days. Looking out from the front window of my place through the oleander bush is a champagne colored maybe 2001 GMC full body pickup truck.
Go on.
And it's been parked there for 5 days.
Is there anyone in it?
No, there's nobody in it, and it has a mean oil leak.
Other than the oil leak, has there been anything specifically weird about it?
Well, yeah, that it's been parked in front of the house for 5 days.
Well, listen, does it have a license plate?
It does.
All right. Well, don't say it on the air, but I bet if we look into that license plate, we might figure out a little bit about what's going on. Do you have the sense that it has anything to do with you and your residence?
Absolutely not.
All right. Well, keep an eye on it, and if you see anyone coming and going.
No, there's no coming and going.
No coming and going.
That's the serious part.
It's just sitting there. All right. I may just drive over and take a look after the show.
No problem.
There you have it, folks.
I don't know if you're aware of the creation story of the Native Americans locally in 29 Palms. They claim that they were dropped off on top of Queens Mountain there, and that's where they came to the area by being dropped off in some ships, I guess, spaceships. But that's where they started, and they came down and they settled in that area, from the spaceships. And then if the San Miguel Indians consider the San Jacinto Mountains as really sacred, San Jacinto Peak. In fact, they claim that there's a sacred place up on the mountain, and there's water, it's green. There's animals up there, but if you try to take the pictures or anything, they won't come out. And they claim that that's their sacred mountain, and that's where they originate. That's their origin story from that mountain also. So the place, the desert area has a long history of encounters with the unknown.
Well, I was just going to share an alien story. To me, it's the only thing I've ever saw myself. Back in 1994, I was at a fraternal organization. I was outside as a door watcher keeper. And over the mountains in 29 Palms, I saw this ball of light like you see on the news now. They're showing these round balls of light chasing each other. And it came from over in Indio Palm Springs up against the mountains here in 29 Palms. One followed another, and they started chasing each other. They go off in thousands of miles an hour all the way out west to Yucca Valley, and then they come back and they'd be chasing each other. And they'd stand in formation at times, and they'd chase each other. It went on for about 8-10 minutes maybe. and I never could get an explanation for that. So it was my personal phenomena. I held it in.
Oh, that's wild. When they disappeared, did they just blink out or fly away or?
And they flew away out of sight. They just flew, and they were in no time out of sight.
That sounds like a that reminds me of when Jimmy Carter was running for president. He's one of two presidents that had a UFO sighting he made public. He was standing outside a fraternal organization in a small town in Georgia with a couple of guys.
Oh my God!
Yeah, and this big kind of egg-shaped thing went by and hovered there, and they all stood there in shock and talking about it, and it was around for a couple of minutes and took off, and he said it shook him.
So there you go, Robbie. You share an experience with an ex-president.
That's right.
Yeah, I did. My God, that's crazy. Yeah. These were, may I add, they were just like perfectly round balls of light. And 7 people saw it, most of them are all gone by now. Elderly people. Thank you.
During the summer, I was at this lunch for the writers who are featured in Palm Springs Noir, the desert crime fiction collection that had just been published. And I heard something at that lunch that was so matter-of-fact, strange, and unsettling that it's been in the back of my mind ever since. And this seems like a good time of year to bring that weird experience to the people who need it most. Desert Oracle radio listeners seeking dread on Halloween weekend. The person who told that story at the lunch was Todd Goldberg, the New York Times best-selling author of books including The Low Desert, Gangsterland, Gangster Nation, Living Dead Girl, etc. The man knows the Low Desert and its seedy history like the back of a dead mobster's hand. Found somewhere east of Indio under the hood of a Lincoln. So Todd also hosts Open Book on Coachella FM with the author Maggie Downs, and he also had a really good Frank Sinatra and Palm Springs story, but that's for another time. The dread is what we seek. So welcome Todd Goldberg to Desert Oracle Radio.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a dream of mine to be coming through speakers next to you, spreading dread across the desert landscape.
This story came up very casually. I didn't even hear the first couple of words because I was talking to whoever was next to me, talking about the weather or something. Pretty hot down here, huh? And you started going into this tale. I want to hear the whole thing. So just start from the beginning, if you will.
So the important thing to know is that when I was a kid, my siblings and I were all very into the Ouija board. It was a big part of our life. You might be surprised to learn we did not have great parents. Like we played around with the Ouija board for years and years and years. And some weird stuff happened when I was a kid, when like my brother and sister were doing it. Stuff where like kids wouldn't come over to the house anymore, you know? And so from a very young age, I'd watch my siblings play with the Ouija board, and eventually I would get in there too. And I don't know if I believed it or not, but you know, contextually, this is the 1970s, early 1980s. We watched a lot of In Search Of, you know, always in search of something. So I started at a very young age to play around with a Ouija board by myself. And
hang on just a second. How do you do that?
Well, so theoretically, you're trying not to move it yourself by having any muscles in your body move. And I would ask questions out loud, and the mover would move around, or I would think a question because I was trying to outwit the spirit world to make sure that it didn't need to speak English. Because even as a kid, I was like, well, why does the spirit world only understand English? Shouldn't I be speaking in Hungarian or whatever? And so sometimes I would think this stuff, sometimes I would say it out loud, and the little mover would move. And so I would play around with this a lot when I was, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. And then I sort of lost it for a while when I got interested in girls and things of that nature. But then I got a job, an after-school job, and I was working at an advertising agency in Palm Springs for a guy named Dell, who was a terrible human being. He's dead now, and I'm happy about that. So I worked for Dell. I worked for Dell and Betty, and Dell was a horrible guy. And I had to do all this filing, and I was in this basement of this advertising agency in Palm Springs, a crappy little advertising agency. And one day I just started making my own Ouija boards and doing it by myself. And like to while away the hours, I would play around by myself on a Ouija board. I was 17 years old at this point. This was 1988.
So by making a Ouija board, did you make it out of wood and paint or
no
printer? Or?
I took a big piece of I took the cardboard off of a filing box, like a banker's box, and I cut the sides off of it, and I just drew it with a marker on that, and then I made the little pointer. Also out of just a folded piece of cardboard, I cut it into a triangle. And I would, I'd ask questions like, does Marcy like me? Is Jan Schoenberger into me? Questions like that. I would be simple and stupid. And then I'd get more complex, and it would move around and answer questions and stuff. And I didn't know if it was real, and I didn't really care at that point. I was just trying to spend some time. So there was one day, this was the summer, I remember it clearly, and I was bored out of my mind, and so I took the Ouija board out and I started playing with it. I said, "Are there any spirits here?" And the pointer began to move, and it kept spelling out the same thing over and over and over again. It kept spelling out, "You must call my wife. You must call my wife. You must call my wife." And it was freaking me out. Because I was like, okay, if I'm doing this myself, why would I be saying this? Like, why would I be pointing to this? And so then I started asking questions. I said, "What's your name?" And it said, "My name is David." And it said, "You must call my wife. You must call my wife." And so finally I said, "Okay, well, what's your phone number?" And he spells out a phone number. And I'm like, oh God, this is creeping me out. Because a weird thing had happened to me years ago. When I was about 12, I had been playing around with the Ouija board at home by myself. And I kept saying, like, if you're a real spirit, what was your old phone number? And then right when it was about to spell out the phone number, because it was like 2, 4, 5, and then it stopped and it said ring. And right when it said ring, my phone rang. And that scared me. That was it. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. This is freaking me out. And just saying that just now made the hair on my arms go up. I can remember it so clearly. I was sitting in my kitchen, and the dog was there, and the phone rang, and I was like, I'm out. I'm done. So it spells out this phone number for me. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh God, I don't know what to do about this. But I said, all right, what the hell? I'm gonna give it a shot. And so I pick up the phone and I call the number, and it was a Los Angeles number. And a woman answers the phone, and I said, I don't want to freak you out or anything. This is probably very strange, but I've been playing with a Ouija board, and it kept saying, you must call my wife. You must call my wife. And so a man named David said this, and so I'm calling. And the woman on the other line of the phone said, why are you doing this to me? Why do you keep doing this to me? People keep calling me all day long saying they have messages from David. Why are you doing this to me? And I was like, ma'am, I'm sorry. The Ouija board told me to do this. I'm just doing what the Ouija board said. And she said, my husband has been dead for a year, and this is cruel. Stop doing this to me. And she hung up the phone. And I just sat there and I was like, I can't play with this anymore. I'm not going to touch one of these things ever again for the rest of my life.
From Amboy to Isaacs, broadcasting across the Great Mojave Wilderness. This is Desert Oracle Radio with soundscapes by Red, Blue, Black, Silver. Well, speaking of Red, Blue, Black, Silver, I saw a picture of his Halloween costume. It's pretty outrageous. He is going as Natalie Portman in the movie Black Swan. Very concerning, really. Thanks to our supporters who keep this show alive at patreon.com/Desert Oracle, or you can go to our website, desertoracle.com. Hundreds of episodes of this radio program produced for you in Joshua Tree, California. I got to go to a terrific community haunted house sort of deal in the Hudson Valley, and it's open through Halloween, I think through the weekend after too. It's called the Haunted Fortress of Stanford. It's in the town of Stanford near Rhinebeck. And it was fantastic. I had no idea what to expect. And but it was great, and it wasn't completely disgusting with a lot of blood spraying out of amputated heads and whatever. It was still pretty creepy, though. Look it up on your surveillance device. I did just now, and it says cash only, so don't try to sneak in with your Venmo or the chip in your head or whatever. They don't take that. I hope your Halloween week is moody and spooky and memorable. Good night from the voice of the desert.